This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. Janet is off. I'm Riel. We begin with a story that has video that some of you might find upsetting. Winnipeg police say a man died after being taken into custody late last night in West Broadway. Manitoba's police watchdog is now investigating what happened, but as the CBC's Alana Cole reports, people who were in the area at the time say they are stunned.
This video shows a person on the ground near Broadway and Sherbrooke Street, two others on top. At least twice you see one of them knee the person on the ground. Alex Braun shared the video with CBC. He started recording, he says, after he saw police tackle a man to the ground.
First, they sort of grabbed his arms and put him against the cop car, and he was flailing his arms a little bit and trying to get loose. So they tackled him to the ground and started kneeling on him and punching him from both sides.
Braun says another person was on the ground nearby and was getting medical attention from first responders. He says he started recording the video just after 10:50 p.m. Braun's roommate, Sarah Struthers, was also there and took pictures.
I was really scared watching them hit him repeatedly. I just yelled out, "Stop," without thinking about it.
The witnesses say the man police had on the ground was eventually taken to hospital by ambulance. This morning, the scene was still taped off. Police say officers had been called to the area just before 11 Sunday night for a report of a man in distress, running into traffic and acting erratically. Police say a man was taken into custody, went into medical distress, was transported to hospital in critical condition, and later pronounced dead. The police watchdog has been notified. Police won't confirm whether the video that Braun took is of the man who died. Police did say there was a medical incident in the same area, but no one was taken into custody. Braun says he shared the video because he was horrified by what he watched happen.
I was really in shock. Obviously, I've seen videos of this, almost exact sort of police violence before. But yeah, to see it happen in front of me was really, really shocking.
As of this morning, police said they still hadn't identified the man who died. The police watchdog has not commented. Alana Cole, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The outgoing Premier of Manitoba is apologizing for election ads that promoted her decision not to search the Prairie Green landfill for the bodies of two First Nations women who are believed to be the victims of a serial killer. For the first time, Heather Stephenson is addressing the Progressive Conservative Party's unsuccessful re-election campaign. CBC's Bartley Kivas sat down with the PC leader for an interview that she describes as her last in the Premier's office.
Heather Stephenson speaking in the office she'll leave on Wednesday when Wab Kinew will be sworn in as Manitoba's Premier. Stephenson's PCs lost power to the NDP on election night after running a campaign even party insiders described as too negative.
Was there, maybe a part of it that there were some unintended consequences where we hurt some people? I don't, I apologize for that because it was not intended to hurt anyone.
What were the parts that you think hurt some people?
Well, I think it was just the ad on the Stand Firm.
During the final days of the election, the PCs campaigned for votes on the basis of their opposition to searching the Prairie Green landfill for the remains of Morgan Harris and Mercedes Myron, both missing and presumed murdered. Stephenson makes no apologies for taking that position, but will take the blame for the way it was communicated.
I'm a leader of the party. I take responsibility for the campaign.
The chief of Long Plain First Nation, home community to the missing women, said Stephenson's words fall short.
In my eyes, or my opinion, would be that the families that have their loved ones in a landfill deserve that apology.
After the election, PC campaign co-chair Candice Bergen said she advised against the party's landfill ads. Stephenson doesn't remember that.
I wasn't at every meeting. I was really busy. They kept me very busy doing various things.
More the social part.
Candace Bergen also said Stephenson's anger during the campaign wasn't convincing. The PC leader says that's the tone she had to take.
Did you feel you were acting during the campaign?
You know, there were times where it was a little uncomfortable. I'm not a combative person.
After the campaign, defeated PC candidate Rochelle Squires and PC President Brent Pools both expressed concerns the party shifted too far to the right. Stephenson won't say where the PCs ought to sit on the political spectrum.
I think the party needs to have that at a convention, those discussions at a convention, and we will continue to do that. I don't think it's up for me to say.
Stephenson plans to remain PC leader for 1 year to 18 months until the party chooses a successor. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Bartley and Heather Stephenson covered a lot of ground in their sit-down, including how she plans to serve as opposition leader and hold the NDP to account. We'll bring you more of the interview in the second half of our program tonight. Nearly half of the Manitobans voted into office during this month's provincial election are new to the job, and like any new job, there is a lot to learn. So this week, they are getting an inside look at what it is like to be a politician. The CBC's Ian Fraze has that story.
It's like the first day at school. There's an instructor at the front of the class, students with name tags, assigned seats, and jotting down notes. For Sand River MLA-elect Billy Cross, it felt familiar.
Being a teacher, this is nothing new to me.
Affectionately called New MLA School, 26 of 57 MLAs are enrolled in orientation.
We didn't quite take attendance, but we did want them all here at the same time.
Deputy Clerk Rick Yarish helped organize it.
They are the class of 23, so if you talk to veteran MLAs, they'll remember who was in their class, and they remember going through versions of training and, the first question period, first throne speech, all of those things.
Over the course of 4 days, the new MLAs will be behind these doors getting a crash course into their new jobs. They'll learn how to introduce a bill, when to stand up in question period, how to set up a constituency office, and they'll get details too on payroll, security, and HR.
It's like drinking water through a fire hose. There's a lot of information coming at us, but it's all very useful and all things we need to know to do our jobs.
Kathleen Cook has worked in the legislature before, but it couldn't prepare her completely for becoming the MLA for Roblin.
I had a huge grin on my face when I got to walk into the chamber for the first time this morning.
Nellie Kennedy, the new MLA for Assiniboia, says she's eager to learn about opening a constituency office.
Those are a lot of burning questions about budgets and, how the office should be set up and location and just kind of what funds are we able to spend.
Other activities weren't on the schedule, like bonding with new colleagues. Lauren Stone represents Midland.
I know we have a role to play in opposition to hold the government to account, but I also know that we can work across party lines to get some things accomplished here in the province, and I'm looking forward to doing that.
One student, Dauphin's Ron Kostishin, has actually been an MLA already, serving one term until 2016. He found the school to be a refresher.
Love the opportunity to sit around and introduce and meet some of the new MLAs.
This class of MLAs seem well behaved, at least for one day. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Mask mandates are coming back to Manitoba healthcare facilities. Staff who work at hospitals, personal care homes, or in other provincially run healthcare facilities will be required to mask up starting on Wednesday as cold and flu season gets underway. The province says staff will have to wear medical masks anytime they are around or working with patients. People who work in regional home care facilities will be required to wear a mask as well. But people who are visiting those healthcare facilities won't have to wear one, even though the province recommends it. A man accused of killing his parents and trying to kill a co-worker in October of 2021 has pleaded not guilty. Both Crown and defense lawyers say Trevor Robert Farley should be found not criminally responsible due to mental illness. With why, here is the CBC's Josh Crabb.
Two sheriff's officers escorted Trevor Farley into a large courtroom. He was in handcuffs and shackles, wearing a gray t-shirt and pants. He looked in the direction of the courtroom gallery where his sister and two brothers were seated before sitting in the prisoner's box. Nearly 40 people, including friends and family of all three victims, were in attendance. There was a gasp from the gallery as Farley pleaded not guilty to 3 charges. Both the Crown and defense told court Farley should be found not criminally responsible. Lawyers referenced a psychiatric report that found Farley was unable to appreciate his actions were wrong. In the report, experts wrote Farley believed he was saving the victims from a demonic evil that had taken residence in their souls. Farley pleaded not guilty to second-degree murder in the stabbing of his father, 73-year-old Stuart Farley, at his dad's Toronto Street home, and not guilty to first-degree murder in the killing of his mother, 73-year-old Judy Swain, at her home near New Bothwell. Farley also pleaded not guilty to attempted murder in the stabbing of his former manager at Winnipeg's Seven Oaks Hospital. It all happened October 27, 2021. That manager, Candice Schwarrick, was in court with her family. She suffered extensive and permanent injuries and spent months in hospital. Court heard Farley's ex-wife had repeatedly called the Crisis Response Center on Bannatyne Avenue, worried about his mental health in the weeks leading up to the offenses. Farley sought help in the days leading up to the crimes. The Crown told court Farley requested care at the Crisis Response Center on October 26th. An assessment found he had delusional beliefs and was experiencing auditory hallucinations, and they decided to hold him involuntarily. But court heard Farley left the center the morning of October 27th before his parents were killed and his co-worker was attacked while at work. The center put out a call to police. After killing his parents, Farley went to the St. Boniface ER but eventually walked out. When he arrived at Seven Oaks, officers finally managed to track him down. A judge will decide Tuesday morning if Farley is not criminally responsible. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Louis Riel will be officially recognized as Manitoba's honorary first premier. Wab Kinew made that announcement on Saturday while addressing the Red River Métis Annual General Assembly in Winnipeg, saying Riel and the Métis are the reason why Manitoba is a part of Canada. He says the move will come this fall after the new government is sworn in.
This fall, when our team returns to the Manitoba legislature, one of the first bills that we are going to bring forward is an act to bestow upon Louis Riel the honorary title that reflects who he truly is, which is Manitoba's first premier.
Riel was declared a founder of Manitoba in 1992 and officially recognized as the first leader of Manitoba in 2016. But the Manitoba Métis Federation continued to push for Riel to be granted the title of first premier. A University of Manitoba professor has come under fire for participating in an event organized by a Russian group that is on Canada's sanctions list. The Valdai Discussion Club is a Moscow-based think tank and discussion forum established in part by the Russian government. Radhika Desai made international headlines earlier this month when she asked President Vladimir Putin for his opinion on a scandal involving a Nazi-affiliated veteran who was honored in Canada's House of Commons. Karen Pauls has the latest.
It all started with this.
President Putin, thank you very much for another really well-informed, I would say, historically very instructive and thought-provoking talk.
That's University of Manitoba political studies professor Radhika Desai asking Russian President Vladimir Putin for his opinion.
From the Second World War, who fought
on Canadian MPs honoring a veteran in the House of Commons last month.
He's a Ukrainian hero, a Canadian hero, and we thank him for all his service. Thank you.
It later emerged that Yaroslav Hunka fought with the Nazi unit.
As you know, the Canadian Parliament has just made itself a laughingstock of the world by applauding a Ukrainian Nazi.
Desai's question gave Putin an opportunity to ridicule Canada and former House of Commons Speaker Anthony Rota.
He's an idiot.
Desai was participating in an event organized by a Russian think tank placed in September on Canada's sanctions list for generating and disseminating disinformation and propaganda. Putin speaks at the Valdai Discussion Club every year. Her decision to accept the Valdai's all-expense-paid invitation and participate despite the sanctions has generated criticism.
She gave the big gift of Putin being able to say that Canada has now provided further justification or proven the justification for our special military operation of denazifying Ukraine, which is pretty horrendous.
Now back home and teaching at the University of Manitoba, Desai is defending her actions.
If I thought it was wrong of me to go, I would not go.
Desai says she and her husband were detained and questioned for nearly 3 hours when they returned to Canada.
Then they read to me from some statement, some printout they had of an interview I had given. They read to me my words, and they essentially implied that I should be ashamed of myself. And I said, I'm not ashamed of myself.
Experts in international sanctions say they're written in a mostly business context, with the goal of halting financial transactions with Russian entities. There is an exception if the contract was entered into before the sanctions were announced, but the risks are substantial.
So you could face prosecution and again, substantial fines or jail time, in addition to the reputational risk.
Global Affairs Canada, the RCMP, and Canadian Border Services Agency won't say if they are investigating. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Some residents of Saint Jean-Baptiste had to leave their homes over the weekend as fire destroyed the local grain elevator. Firefighters were called to the blaze around 3 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. Crews from 8 fire departments as far away as Winkler, Morden, and Morris were called in to help. 6 homes and a seniors residence were evacuated for several hours until that blaze was contained. The nearly 75-year-old structure was being used to store and move feed grain.
Other than historical, is this was an existing business, and now they've lost their structure, which is almost impossible to rebuild. As you know, an elevator is a huge building, so it's sad for that business owner. It's going to be, I don't know how he's going to come out of it. It's going to change his operations, no question.
The grain elevator is a total loss. The cause of that fire is not known at this time. And police say this fire in Pine Falls over the weekend appears to be suspicious. The nearly century-old school in the town burnt down on Saturday night. The school closed in 2007 and was designated a Manitoba Historic Site. Investigators are still looking into what caused it. Well, there was plenty of anticipation ahead of the Winnipeg Jets home opener this weekend. Fans returned to Canada Life Centre on Saturday with a few key players no longer in the lineup. Longtime Jet Blake Wheeler and centre Pierre-Luc Dubois went to other teams over the summer. The Jets, though, in return, got a trio of players back from Los Angeles. Here's what a few fans had to say about the team.
Cup or bust.
They're making it.
Feel great about it. We're going to get this one, 100%. Well, I think with the re-signing of Hellebuck and Scheifele, we're going to do it this year. That's a good, solid foundation. We need that goaltender. Hellebuck's the man.
Excited. It's kind of sad because I'm a big fan of Wheeler, but it's kind of sad seeing him go. But I'm so excited for the new players as well. So.
Brandon Rodriguez. Chance the other way. The Jets answer back. Kyle Connor ties it up just 10 seconds later.
I think infusion of some of the new players will change the face, and it's wait and see. But I'm very happy to see that some of our more well-known players and that have been here for a long time are staying.
Because I don't think that they're in a rebuild right now. I think they're built to win still.
Bodies go down in front. He tried to jam it home, and then they do score. Morgan Barron gives Winnipeg the lead, 3-2.
Optimistic.
Why?
Because I want to win.
What do you like about this year's edition of the team that's making you feel optimistic?
Velarde.
Jets hold it in. Velarde puts it in front. The chance wide from Connor.
I follow the guys from LA. I'm looking forward to that. Hellebuck and Scheifele, seven more years. All promising.
Probably 8 out of 10, hoping for 9. So yeah, I'm pretty sure they'll do good.
It's awesome that we have Scheifele and Hellebuck coming back.
It's just making the team stronger. Definitely see a Stanley Cup this year.
Really, I'm keeping it low, to be honest. It was the same expectations I had last year, so it keeps me even keeled, so I'm not so frustrated when they do too bad. And when they do make it, I'll be really excited. So.
Breaking in, Shifley, and he scores! Off the rush, the Jets lead at 1-0. Here's Perfetti centering, DeMello with a chance, and he scores! Lowry's lost his stick, he's moving 2-on-1, now he got up from the bench, Lowry is in, Appleton in front, and Bobrovsky can't get it!
Meteorologist John Sodders here. John, you know, it is so hard to think about hockey when it's so nice outside.
Yeah, you know, temperatures to the west of us, very, very warm today. I'm talking on the Saskatchewan side of the border, and I'll show you that in a second, but 17 here in Winnipeg. I think with light winds, if you're driving around in your car this afternoon, probably saw some 18s, 19s. Right now, we've dropped a few numbers, 14, south winds at 13. Our pressure has been falling through the day because there is a low pressure system out to the west that is moving our way, and it will be a bit of a game changer in the short term as we head through the middle part of the week. But yeah, 14 still very warm, not just for this time of day, but this time of year. That's our current temperature in Winnipeg. Still 19 in Regina. Saw a 21 there earlier. Same with Swift Current at 21, Assiniboia, all across southern Manitoba and southwestern Manitoba. The moving lines you see here, that's the upper level flow, and that is the ridge that is out to the west of us. Much, much cooler down east. Lots of sunshine here in southern Manitoba, northern Manitoba. That will start to change as we get into the overnight period. A low pressure system just forming now on the leeward side of the mountains. On the east side of the mountains, we'll start to bring some rain into Alberta through the night tonight and early Tuesday through parts of Saskatchewan. And as we get into the afternoon, we'll start to see some of this rain around Swan River, Dauphin, down through Riding Mountain and Brandon. But just cloudy this far east and farther east as well. Once we get into the nighttime, though, and to about midnight on Tuesday into Wednesday, we see some rain. A lot of this is south of the Trans-Canada. Potential here for 5 to maybe 10 millimeters. Could see higher amounts out in the southeast section of the province. I think some of this will hang around into early Wednesday morning with just some shower activity, and then move on out quite quickly. It'll leave behind a generally cloudy day, although late in the day, I think we may start to see a few sunny breaks just before sunset on Wednesday. And then as we look at Thursday, another little impulse is moving into the western edge of the province for early in the morning. This is Thursday at 2 a.m. Let's look at rainfall amounts, projected rainfall amounts on the graph model. So as we look at the next 24 hours, there isn't much happening here, but in the afternoon, it starts to pile up a little bit out to the west. And then certainly by 6 o'clock on Wednesday, we've got higher amounts closer to the international border. Winnipeg right now pegged at 3, Kenora at 8, Dryden at 1. So we'll run that again tomorrow and see how the rainfall projections are looking on into late Tuesday and through the day Wednesday. In the meantime, though, just clear overnight, a low of 1. The normal low is now -1. 3 degrees in the morning, some sun, some cloud, light winds. Nice morning to get out for a walk and see some, or what's left of the colors. 16 in the afternoon and mainly cloudy here in Winnipeg ahead of those evening showers that will certainly move on through. And then it's morning showers, windy, north winds 30 gusting to 50 on Wednesday, cooler at 13, same with Thursday 13, and then we're right back up to 16 degrees again on Friday. So yes, our mild October continues.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Still ahead tonight, our in-depth coverage of the war between Israel and Hamas continues. Hamas firing a barrage of rockets at Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, while Israel ramps up its intense bombardments in Gaza. The latest up next. The war between Israel and Hamas escalated today, with Hamas firing a barrage of rockets at Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, and hospitals in Gaza inching toward the brink of collapse due to lack of water, fuel, and medical supplies. Diplomatic efforts to let aid reach Gaza fell through. Meantime, the death toll has continued to climb, with at least 1,300 Israelis and 2,800 Palestinians now dead. One Israeli airstrike hit the crossing from Gaza to Egypt. Canada is still working to get about 300 Canadians and their families out of the territory. 5 Canadians have been killed in Israel and 3 are still missing. Israeli officials today also updated the number of hostages being held by Hamas from 155 to 199. Ottawa says it is doing all it can to get Canadians out of conflict zones. Today, it announced that 30 people, mostly Canadians, had traveled from the occupied West Bank to Jordan by bus. Paul Hunter has more.
At Rafah, the Gaza Strip's southern border crossing with Egypt, the gates are still shut tight as desperation grows. Some 300 Canadians are among those trapped in Gaza while Israeli airstrikes continue, and as efforts by Canada and others to negotiate a way out for foreign nationals have failed. Among those stuck, Palestinian Canadian Asia Mathkour and her family, who recorded this message to send to CBC News.
Bombings are going near us right now, and we are scared that any minute, any second, a bomb could drop us next to us, and then we'll be all collateral damage. We have no time to be safe. We need Canadians to be moving.
Meanwhile, success today for 21 Canadian nationals in a Canadian government-organized bus journey out of the West Bank and into Jordan. More may follow. The West Bank is not part of what's happening in Gaza, but tensions here are high, as are fears that what's happening in Gaza could spread. But by no means do all Palestinian Canadians want to leave.
This is where I belong.
Sasha, who asked that we not identify her for fear of Israeli reprisal, is Palestinian Canadian and spent much of her life in Ontario and BC. As we stood on a street in Ramallah, she worried if too many Palestinians were to up and leave, or if they didn't stay and fight for change, nothing ever will.
I'm against things calming down now, and I am fully in support of just things going insane to the extreme. Even if it meant losing my own life, my family, anything, I'm willing to sacrifice in order to have this country be in a better place for once.
It's a nightmare, to be honest. It's a nightmare.
Sabri Saidam with the Fatah Party, which controls parts of the occupied West Bank, echoes some of Sasha's defiance. He knows Palestinians in Gaza are running for their lives, but worries if too many now flee there and in the West Bank, the Palestinian battle for nationhood could be lost.
You're saying to Palestinian Canadians here, stay, don't leave, stay.
I would say, the matter of movement is a personal choice, but collectively I would say Palestinians are Palestinians. They decide on their fate. I would say we all have to stay put.
To stay or to go in Gaza and in the West Bank, the desperate dilemma for Palestinians. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Ramallah.
Well, as the fighting continues in the Middle East, Canada's Prime Minister is making a call for respect and care in this country. Justin Trudeau also gave an update on the government's efforts to get Canadians out of the region, get humanitarian aid in, and ensure that hostages are released. Catherine Cullen reports.
There are so many people in Canada who are afraid of the escalating tension here at home.
The crisis half a world away is hitting here, says the Prime Minister, citing rising anti-Semitism and Islamophobia.
This is a time to reach out, to support one another.
This was the first time politicians gathered in the House of Commons since Hamas's brutal attack over a week ago. All parties emphasized the need for a humanitarian corridor to deliver supplies to those suffering in Gaza.
It is imperative that this happen.
The Prime Minister noted the first bus of Canadians was able to get out of the West Bank and said they are working incessantly to try to get Canadians out of Gaza. He called for international law to be upheld and for Hamas to release its hostages, saying 3 Canadians may be among them.
But let me also be extremely clear that Hamas does not represent the Palestinian people, nor their legitimate aspirations. They do not speak for Muslim or Arab communities.
The Conservatives hammered that message.
Hamas is a sadistic, criminal, terrorist death cult, and it must be defeated. There was no negotiating with bin Laden, and there can be no negotiating with Hamas.
Pierre Poilievre called for a review to ensure no aid goes to Hamas, something the government insists it is already ensuring. The NDP are pushing for a different course.
Israelis and Palestinians have the right to live in peace. Why won't this government stand up for international law and call for a ceasefire?
A call the government is not embracing.
Our government is very clear that we support the state of Israel, and we recognize Israel's right to defend itself within international law.
The Prime Minister called on Canadians to hold on to their core values, including freedom of speech and respect for one another. Catherine Cullen, CBC News, Ottawa.
Still ahead, after what was a gorgeous day across much of the province, John Sauter is in with his look at the Manitoba forecast. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Well, cloudy skies did not deter Winnipeggers from checking out an annular solar eclipse at Assiniboine Park on Saturday. The viewing party was organized by the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada and the Assiniboine Park Conservancy.
Okay, so we've had some glimpses of the eclipse here. We are here for the solar eclipse viewing party.
Come on. And it disappeared.
Lots of people are out here watching the moon cover up the sun. The clouds were sort of thinning, and then all of a sudden there was a break in the cloud that you could see the eclipse through, and everybody just went, whoa, and dropped what they were doing and looked at it. When worlds align, you've got the moon going around the earth and the earth going around the sun, and when all three of those line up in a line, you get basically this eclipse situation. We're at one end, the moon's in the middle, and the sun is off on the other side, so it's blocking out the sun. Lunar eclipses also happen when we're in the middle, so different alignments and things like that. But this is something that happens fairly regularly. If you watch the sky, you can actually predict it, and that's what we've done today, and we know to be exactly in the right spot, in the right time to see the eclipse happen.
It's always amazing, as Scott said, you're seeing something you never see very often or ever at all, and you're getting that perfect alignment of your eyes with the moon, with the earth, with the sun. It's a unique event to witness.
It's not often that we see this, right? So it's important for us to learn with our family and our kids to see something like an event like this, and I don't learn about it. They ask questions, and we were just talking to one of the astronomers, and when we look in the sky, it's like kind of put things in perspective that the world and Earth and everything around us is it's huge, right?
Yeah. What was it like?
We gotta keep watching that.
Cool. It was neat. Really, really exciting.
We all have a connection to the sky, and when you see an event like an eclipse, it's not just the Earth and the moon and the sun that's lighting up, it's also you. During an eclipse, you can see the motion, you can actually feel the motions of the universe that we normally sort of are disconnected from. So I think that really draws people. They get excited about realizing they're part of a bigger universe.
Very cool, John.
Yeah, it was very cloudy for me.
Very cloudy here downtown.
Yeah, I missed it. Yeah. I've seen it before, though. It is really something, and Scott's right. It makes you feel like, oh, we're part of a much larger picture.
Cool to see as long as you have the proper eye protection.
Exactly. And I have two of those at home, and I could not find them anyway. All right, let's get to your weather, because our temperatures across southern Manitoba still warm. Look at Eli, still at 18 degrees, 15 in Morris, 14 here in Winnipeg. Down at the Forks, it's 15 degrees right now. We did make it to about 16.4. That's the highest on-hour temperature I saw. We may have gotten a little bit above that. Still 19, though, in Melita and Swan River, 16 in Brandon, 17 in Dauphin, 18 in Portage-la Prairie. So still some very warm numbers out there on the west side of the province. Check out northern Manitoba. Mid-teens here in the west. 11 in Churchill for this time of day and this time of year is really exceptional. We could see some patchy fog across parts of northern Manitoba tonight. Here in the south, not really in the cards. We've got a pair of ones here for Fort Francis and Dryden, a 2 in Red Lake, a little bit cloudier in Kenora, and a low of 7 overnight tonight. Here across the rest of the south, anywhere from 1 to 3 degrees for overnight lows. Again, normal low -1 in Winnipeg. Some 4s up around Dauphin, Swan River as the cloud starts to creep in ahead of that system that is out to the west of us. And across the north, again, very mild overnight temperatures or early morning temperatures. We could see a few showers starting up in the morning around the Thompson area. That'd be really toward the morning. And then tomorrow is a sun-cloud mix, leaning toward cloud in the west and through Norway House, and a cloudy 9 tomorrow in the Churchill area. But normals here in the north are more like 7 or 8. So pretty substantial, the departure from normal as far as temperatures are concerned. Now here in the west, we'll start to see some afternoon rain in Dauphin, Swan River, Riding Mountain, likely Verdun, down through Boissevain, Brandon, afternoon showers turning into evening rain. And then around Portage and Morden, same sort of thing. Increasing cloud through the day. Morden, you'll see some afternoon showers, changing to evening rain. A lot of that rain late in the day, and this far east it'll be on into the evening, but a lot of it'll be south of the Trans-Canada Highway, but certainly cloudier conditions on the way for tomorrow. And we're looking at temps that will still be very mild, anywhere from 14 in Gimli and Barons River, 16s and 17s for the rest of us, and over into northwestern Ontario, anywhere from 15 to 17 with a sun-cloud mix.
All right, thanks, John.
You bet.
Still to come, Heather Stephenson leaves the Premier's office in 2 days. That, of course, when Manitoba's new government is officially sworn in on Wednesday. Bartley Kives has more of our one-on-one with Manitoba's outgoing Premier next. You are watching CBC Winnipeg News. Well, as we showed you earlier in the show, Progressive Conservative leader Heather Stephenson leaves office in 2 days. That is when NDP leader Wab Kinew and his cabinet will be sworn in as Manitoba's next provincial government. And one of the big questions is how Stephenson plans to serve as opposition leader and hold the NDP to account. Here's more of Heather Stephenson's interview with CBC's Bartley Kivas.
The tone of the campaign was a lot more negative than I think political observers expected. And you said during the campaign that you don't get into the weeds on it, but how do you think about it now?
You know, I think it's been negative. There's been a lot of negativity, even for the last 2 years since I became Premier. The negativity against me started then. And, you know, it's continued. I don't like the negativity. I really don't. But I will say, like, I don't get into the weeds on the campaign, but I'm very proud of the campaign that we ran, and Marnie did a great job. And there's so many people that helped out on that campaign, and I just want to thank them for what they did. And, you know, was there, you know, maybe a part of it that there were some unintended consequences where we hurt some people? You know, I don't, you know, I apologize for that, because you know, it was not intended to hurt anyone.
What were the parts that you think hurt some people?
Well, I think it was just the ad on the stand firm, and I think that there were unintended consequences of that, and so I think, you know, we certainly did not want to hurt Manitobans that way, and so you know, I apologize for that. I'm a leader of the party. I take responsibility for the campaign.
I just want to go back to the unintended consequences. Can you elaborate on what you mean by that?
Well, I think there were people that were very upset, you know, with them, and it hit them very emotionally. And you know, I certainly did not ever, and none of us had ever intended to hurt anybody. We were simply getting a message out about a certain issue and how difficult it was to make that decision, and that those are the difficult decisions that, you know, the new Premier's designate will need to make as well.
So when Marnie or Barb or whomever it was in the campaign said, you know, we're going to campaign on the basis of our opposition to searching the landfill, did you or anyone push back against that and go, look, we're going to look, like, whether or not this is the right decision, we're going to look a little ghoulish here? Did anyone push back?
I don't think we ran a campaign just solely on that. We have our entire platform. If you actually look through that.
Well, I'm not suggesting you ran, forgive me for jumping in, I'm not saying you ran your whole platform. I just meant that particular plank of it, though.
No, I think all the way through we were getting questions asked of us, and I think, you know, it was incumbent upon us to make sure that Manitobans knew where we stood on that, and you know, and ask, you know, my opponents where they stood on it as well. So.
Candice Bergen said that she pushed back against that. Is that accurate by your recollection?
I don't, you know, I wasn't at every meeting. I don't, you know, I was really busy. They kept me very busy doing various things, and so I was focused on that part. And again, you know, we will have our discussions internally about what took place, and have that out with, you know, the party and caucus, and we'll have those discussions there. I don't think, you know, I'm certainly not going to have those discussions in the media.
Rochelle Squires said that the campaign didn't feel like the party she represented for 7.5 years. What do you think about her comments?
Well, again, I think I certainly, you know, believe that we need to have those discussions in the party. You know, if that's the way she feels and others feel that way, like, we need to have those discussions, and we will. There'll be policy conventions coming up. You know, there's going to be all sorts of things as we rebuild this party. So I think it's exciting in the future.
Manitoba typically is a pretty moderate political culture. When Philman was in power, pretty moderate conservative. When Dewar is in power, pretty moderate New Democrat. What would you say to the idea that the campaign made it look like the progressive conservatives were shifting further to the right?
Well, you know, I think you look at the budget that we brought in the spring, and I would tell you that is very much who we are and what we're all about. And you know, during the campaign, we also made announcements sort of on those things as well. And so, you know, various campaigns are run differently. There's different things that you do, and wedge issues and all of these things.
What does the Progressive Conservative Party have to be going forward? I mean, ideologically. Does it need to continue to be a progressive conservative party? Does it need to move further to the right? Where do you think it should go? You're going to be interim leader. You're going to help steer this. Where should the party be on that spectrum?
I think the party needs to have that at a convention, those discussions at a convention, and we will continue to do that. I don't think it's up for me to say I think it's the party membership to have a significant say in that.
What do you think of whether or not the party could be electable if it does go closer to either the federal party or even further?
We need to get back to the grassroots of our party and who that is. There'll be a leadership race. There'll be more memberships that are sold. And then those members will have a say at a policy convention about where we want to go as a party. I don't think, me sitting here, it's not up to me. It's up to the membership of the party, the grassroots of the party.
When you are opposition leader, you're going to be in question period.
Yeah.
And you've been on the other side of that. How concerned are you that you'll be a lightning rod for the NDP? They'll be able to, you ask a question, they're going to talk about your record on healthcare, your record, the tone of the campaign. How concerned are you that you may not be as effective as an interim leader with more of a blank slate in that role?
Look, I think we need stability in our party right now, and I think it's the best thing for me to stay on in this role right now, to see it through to a new leader. I believe I do have the confidence of our caucus.
Now, I gotta say, the Heather Stephenson that I've observed over the years was the Heather Stephenson who issued that concession speech on election night. The Heather Stephenson I saw between August 11th and October 2nd sometimes didn't really seem like you. Did you feel you were acting during the campaign?
There were times where it was a little uncomfortable. I'm not a combative person, and I think that's what you're talking about. And so I think sometimes we had to take a different tone. We're fighting for Manitobans, and we are fighting for Manitobans. There's no question. But I think I take a conciliatory approach to things. I try and work with others, and sometimes I would say that that didn't come across that way in the campaign, and. But I feel that I did everything I could to make sure that we delivered for Manitobans, and again, 42% of the population, or of those that voted, supported us.
If you want to watch that interview again, you can head over to our CBC Manitoba YouTube channel. A look at downtown Winnipeg now as the sun sets. John Sauter is back with the 7-day forecast, and we'll have a daily lift that's gone to the dogs up next.
comes to your news, you want up-to-the-minute access. Anytime, anywhere. Get the facts straight from the source. Download the free CBC News app or visit cbcnews.ca for news you can trust.
Well, perhaps you're making early plans for the weekend. Perhaps it's the Bomber game. Here is your game night forecast for this Saturday. Bombers versus Elks. Kind of a cloudy day. Not a lot of wind during the game, but 11 degrees at kickoff. Halftime temperature should be right around 9. The high that day is 12 degrees. So we are a little bit cooler after tomorrow. Some rain Tuesday night into Wednesday. 12 on Saturday. Then a sun cloud mix and 11 on Sunday and a high of 10 on Monday. And it does look like we do cool off a little bit next week. The contestants at a weekend event were strutting their stuff like Hollywood stars, which they were.
Sort of. The details in tonight's Daily Lift. Well, from a Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory ensemble to something like this, Barbie with shades, and Wednesday Addams from the Addams Family. Hollywood was a big inspiration at this event in Lima. Judges took several factors into consideration, including creativity and originality, along with family involvement in creating some of these costumes. How the dogs performed on the runway was also a factor, and from the looks of it, they all understood the assignment.
Yeah. How can you tell if a dog is completely embarrassed and saying to the owner, you know, maybe you shouldn't be putting
Take me home.
Yeah, take me home.
Exactly. Thank you, John. And that is our program for tonight. Thank you so much for being with us. We will see you again at 11 and tomorrow at 6. Have a great night.
Good night.